main reason to just have good audience.
Yeah, go
Tell us something about yourself, about why you are interested in indoor and cleaning. Exactly.
Yeah. Basically, I started about in 2000, clear by chance, when a Norwegian crowd came out to scan a ship. Well, at the time, I was ex-Navy and I understood how to operate around our harbour, and I took them in and I stood on the side of the ship. And here was a guy with a big box scanner scanning a ship, and on the same time the model appeared on a computer next to him, and he was explaining to us how they actually then take this, cut the ship up digitally in half, design a new midsection. Instead of in the old days where they had to bring it into port, let it lie for almost 2 years in dry dock, they designed the new section and put it together. And I thought, wow, this is the best thing since sliced bread as a conventional engineering surveyor. And then he said, well, this is not all. You know, it's one of those like ads, it just gets better. That they even cut it in half and put a few more decks in by having this information, and very accurate information. And that's how, and suddenly a penny dropped on me where I was from 10 years earlier in petrochemicals, surveying miles and miles of pipes, conventionally with a total station. And immediately, just love at first sight. And that was probably where it all started. But very quickly I found out that this technology was about to open my world from just working for a civil engineer to absolutely all the engineering professionals out there, from chemical engineers. It's literally, I saw it at the time as a problem solving, and automatically came in the 3D environment. And along the way, it's been quite an interesting journey. In those days, the scanners were small, very slow, heavy, and as we progressed, it really got faster. And I was quite lucky at the time, and Chris, that's also in the audience here, just joined UCT on the African Heritage Project. And I can recall our first, we brought the first big scanner into the country. It was a Cyber 2400 with a big black box. And we were so excited about doing our own project, and the scanner didn't switch on. So after that disappointment, we then got a proper Cyber 2500, which was a very reliable scanner. And I offered it to Professor Louw, and I can still remember him saying to me, yeah, I've heard of this stuff, but I'm a photogrammetrist, this is not for me. And he took this off onto one of his projects at the time in Louw in Ethiopia. And I can tell you, when he got back, I had a tough time retrieving my scanner from him. Because like myself, he also was love at first sight. And yeah, there is where our journey started. And over the years, how we have progressed from a nice technology, and we always knew that in South Africa that it's going to stay a nice and a niche technology until we will get the main players to come on board. It was a main push, and I saw that coming probably from about 2004 onwards, that until the time that MicroStation and AutoCAD came on board with point cloud engines, it was just a nice technology. It was for exclusive few. And I think that was the watershed for us in South Africa, because we get pushed by engineers and architects to go to the next step. But until such time as we pushed, it's basically just nice. But engineers don't want to take a chance on things. They are conservative, and rightfully so, because mistakes on their side will cost quite a lot of lives. So therefore, that's where we started. Got UCT involved in it, first academics, and it is always, and that's why this forum, though, for me, it's a very academic forum. A lot of people in the audience might not think so, but those are the guys, it's the early adopters. It's like industry will look at new technology, and if a supplier comes to industry and says, this is a new technology, and you almost don't bring with you the academia, it's like industry will not accept it. And that was a great step. And I remember in the early days, Heinz had a famous slide, and I think I mentioned to one or two people in the audience, about laser scanning. And he actually was quite controversial with these two slides. The first slide in his startled talk was to surveyors now, engineering surveyors, land surveyors, was a slide with a yacht with GIS on the side of the ship, of the yacht, sailing into the blue yonder. Nice idyllic scene. And the next slide was the kicker, where he then had like a Kililaro with 3D laser scanning printed on the side, sailing into the Caribbean. And he said to the audience, you need to get involved. From moving from this 2D environment which you know into this point cloud 3D environment. And yes, we've had quite a bit of a growth around that in the industry. The first uptakers was plant in South Africa, and then a few general practices took up the technology. Mining then became the biggest turner because.
Okay, we'll talk about what is.
So that was the early days until the time that it really started getting going. Since the introduction of the point cloud engines within AutoCAD and in MicroStation, and that's like the early history around.
In a way, you were pushed by the technology.
Yeah.
And can you introduce first yourself?
I'm Godfrey. I'm from a company here in Cape Town, South Africa called Optron. We're the Trimble dealers within Sub-Saharan Africa. So obviously our interest in 3D, the 3D is through the technology and the hardware. And I think in 3D in South Africa, our customers always need to they're always looking to try and become more efficient. And as Francois said, recently, I think the drive in the watershed has been where recently the likes of the Autodesk was there, that recently brought out their recap plugins to their software. It's now becoming more slowly, but it's becoming more accepted and more wanted by the likes of the engineers and especially the architects to want sort of the 3D point cloud. So yeah, that's where.
But what specifically you personally, why you got interested in it?
Because it's the way things are going, are moving forward in the industry. I think people are going to start moving away from the 2D and into 3D. So it makes things more efficient from the building perspective.
But you are also kind of technology driven. So there was a technology and it was likely that you started looking into 3D or something like that. Or you had a dream and you decided, okay, I want to find this company or this technology that can make my dreams true.
I was mainly introduced to 3D through because when we were working in London, we used 3D and stuff, scanning for monitoring of underground tunnels, tube stations, stuff like that. That's when the realization came that 3D was a usable tool to be used in your day-to-day aspects of from engineering point of view. I came from our background was an engineering surveyor, so within that environment,
yeah. And let's see what is your story.
First, I now Peter Louw, work with Working Incorporated. It's just a part of that's pretty good fancy band, but they do all that laser scanning as well.
Speak up a bit, please.
Right. Basically, I started in London in Walmart. But was just doing conventional surveying, as-built survey, and then obviously they do the design work on that, like what goes takeout work for mostly internal grid lines for fitting and things like that. And came back, just carried on looking, and then yeah, I realized that's what I want to do for a living. So then I went to go study at UCT, get my degree. And then after that, yeah, I started working with first Godfrey this year yesterday, and then I'm working with Gavin, which was supposed to be there. And it's been pretty stimulating, right? But the most interesting is right now, obviously with the laser scanning that we're doing, it's full 3D. And yeah, interesting work, that sort of indoor related stuff that we do is for architects mostly. When you work with architects and structural engineers, we have projects like Artscape and UCT Rugby Club, which is quite a complex 3D building, and it's, you know, it's not just the floor levels keep changing and lots of different information. And then just developing methodology to extract data, make your workflow more and more efficient. Because obviously scanning and photography, you get a lot of data, and interpretation and representation of it. And obviously, most of the client has tolerances that you have to adhere to, so you have to build in quality control methods as well to make sure that you can deliver the product that you promise. So,
yeah. So in a way, a little bit, three of you were pushed from technology. So guys, we have to develop even better technology, more attractive, something like more gaming probably, to be able to attract more people in this area. But seriously, in a way, now when you follow all the presentations, and you said already that they're quite academic, but do you see that these kind of developments that we are presenting now are really might be useful for some of the applications or use cases that you have? Or if you will put the questions another way around, what use cases are interesting for you, and what kind of technology might be necessary for these kind of use cases? Something like construction, like what Elaine presented, something for navigation. We had two very interesting cases for real navigation, or just from the point clouds, because we're all fascinated by point clouds, how to make the 3D models, and we also had some presentations in construction.
I think, you know, you look at the South African economy, we are largely driven by mining. And the open cast mining is outside of this forum, and there it's really easy, especially in our mobile systems, and there's quite a few of those systems running around South Africa. But the big challenge is the underground environment. You know, we've scanned, people don't believe us, when you say you can go down 4 kilometers underground, and the technologies down that you need to apply down there is probably some of the harshest conditions known to man. The rock temperature down there is about 60 degrees, and it is fairly high tech that needs to be employed to be able to work efficiently. I've been saying that that industry is looking to find smarter, faster ways to basically to mine. Recently, I've been put under the cosh by geologists that wanted to. After they saw a scan, they were quite impressed. And firstly, their eyes lit up because they could see the ore body in the data, and calculating ore body is like the holy grail of the mining industry underground. And then they started getting challenging, because they then said, yeah, but we can actually do HDRI imaging, which even got their ears perked even better. And then came the kicker when one of them asked me, but why can't we combine sensors like multispectral on top of our point clouds, even to see more? So that is the type of challenges we get from industry, and to be able to find yourself underground is fairly crucial in this approach to scan and be able to map the assets that they've got and also the volume movement that they've got. Another major kicker for the mining industry is the safety aspect. People getting lost, we all know about what happened in Chile, but that was a bit of an easy scenario. But if there's some accidents underground, to be able to find people, and that is an interesting scenario where, and I haven't heard of it at this forum, where they can find you within 100 cubic meters underground with very low frequency sound technology. So there's a lot of technology that gets driven in the mining industry, especially deep mining, that is related to this indoor environment. And there the challenges is just so much more because the environment is extreme.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the type of scenarios that scientists and academia in front of us can probably put light on to actually put it away.
Somebody has some idea about research? Yeah,
So
Louw?
how quickly can you move with your equipment today in a tunnel mine versus, I've shown this morning, for example, the CBD is doing a scanner that can do at walking speed.
Yeah, we were
Would something like that help you be really more efficient in these hard conditions?
Yeah, it is definitely technology to watch, but again we get to the point of navigation or GIS type of quality as opposed to survey grade scanning quality. It's one thing just to know that there's a tunnel, but it's something else to track rock anchors, services like ventilation. For that you need a higher density scan. And in a workshop about a week ago at Anglo American, Zebedee couldn't give us that type of information. And so therefore, we're looking at the big challenge right now is your high order 3D laser scanners. Their problem is moving setup to setup. Your downtime is moving from one setup to the next setup. And therefore, mobilizing them to an extent can really enhance the answers that they need, and they need them quickly. Also, what is a big push right now in mining is mining forensics. Mining forensics is big because whenever someone gets hurt on a mine, the mine can be closed. In South Africa, because of our legislation, a mine can be closed indefinitely until the mine can prove that will not happen again, what steps they've taken. So the mining industry is taking this very seriously and throwing a lot of money towards technology in safety. And this is one of the other aspects that scanning, not just scanning, imagery, a lot of other technologies needs to be combined. And a lot of the mining houses are asking not just for one technology, they want a fusion of a few technologies to try and get redundancy in the extraction of the additive and the electrical reasoning to get to answers.
Somebody has some research that is related to these aspects that François is mentioning. Jinshu, how is it in China with the mining? Do you have the same challenges?
I see it's similar to it because in China we have also some hydrological projects to improve the technical level because the mining work is dynamic every day. So we have to monitor, have to management, and have to support the safe every day. So we call it, we provide like the 4-dimensional GIS with the sensor data to monitor the construction progress as well as the environment, like sun and the air quality, like the temperature, like this.
Seismic information.
Yes, so real time monitor in the 3D. It's a similar to the augmented reality. The virtual and the reality just a fusion. So I think this is a very good example for the sensor data integrated into the GIS with the reality. So we can control there's reality based on the GIS data as well as the social data. So this is the China application.
I saw earlier there was some explanations about augmented reality and especially underground. Anglo was pushing a lot for a ruggedized tablet being carried by a professional. As a geologist, for the system to know where he is in the mine at that point in time, and for only those aspects that's important to him to be flashing up on the screen. So therefore the information flashing up, I think you had a slide where you showed photos and the next thing there was information behind it. If it is seismic events or whatever the geologist is interested in, need to flash up as part of the augmented reality on this localized view portal. But it must be different to what the ventilation engineer wants or the rock engineer. So that has been pushed heavy by the big mining houses for us to provide solutions around indoor, which is essentially, think as a mine as a shopping center, just a bit more hazardous, but yeah, with a lot of features and a lot of information that needs to be extracted. Indeed, that information needs to be available to professionals on the fly. Most of these mines, funny enough, believe it or not, is covered fully by Wi-Fi. Well, yeah, Wi-Fi. There's 2 or 3 mines that's Wi-Fi. Because where they drive in ultra-low mining, it's driven by robots. That's driven by Wi-Fi. So these systems is well used in the mining sector.
What would you say is your application or use case that would need to be in your model implementation? What would you consider?
3D modeling for navigation.
Or 3D modeling or indoor navigation?
In South Africa, I would say the big change in indoor is now just the change, technology becoming more affordable. I think that's another thing in South Africa is that for scanning technology, so price point is always a factor. Now that scanners and scanning is becoming more of a affordable option. Things like people are now able to do projects that they weren't previously able to do in the 3D environment, such as something simple like sectional title work. So you can go and you can bring in a 3D laser scanner.
But
to
is
make
it going to be shopping? You go to a shopping mall and you do the scanning there and you do the modeling, or it's going to be to the offices? Where in indoor do you think might be interesting?
well, it can be anywhere. So it can be wherever. So it can be from small scale up to large scale. Now that it's becoming more mobile, more efficient.
And you think that it's going to be developed further and further?
Yeah, with the drive coming from the end user, from the BIM side of things, from it's the whole cycle from your architect through your construction through efficiencies, making efficiencies through laser scanning.
Right.
3D.
And Peter?
Yeah, I think the BIM thing is quite big. Everybody starts using it, especially now architects coming out for construction. But I don't want to just focus. Obviously, our part we play is mostly for construction because it plays the build. But obviously, to manage the building after it's been constructed is really important. Like the biggest problem now is with all these old plans from the 50s and trying to find information in the building doesn't actually correlate to that. So having a more sort of modern model rather than old paper plans or 2D it's easier to manage, and then obviously you can bring your augmented reality into it and you'll see where the services are on the wall for maintenance or upgrading. So, and then also yesterday, very inspiring thoughts. I mean, the retail sector is waking up. We were approached by a company who was writing an app for Century City, just down the road from our walk. So they were also investigating various methods in getting a decent looking 3D model of the shopping center for retail purposes. I mean, all the technology we're talking about navigating and stuff, but you can't navigate if you don't have that model there. And I mean, shops, they change location, they break through to the other side and reshop fit, and everything changes over time quite regularly in shopping centers and retail. So your methodology has to be, can't be too resource intensive, because you're going to have to be able to repeat the process, and it can't be too expensive. So there's applications, but I think first of all, countries will probably be a bit further developed than us. I don't know, it'd be nice to meet, but I think they probably have done a little bit more experimentation and maybe implementation of systems already, where we're just starting to wake up now. But there's definitely an interest in that sector as well.
I think, without putting someone on the spot, Wayne and them has been doing quite a bit of BIM work, and to hear from a real guys that do a lot of that type of stuff, I think you guys are probably the most hands-on BIM scanning guys in the country. If you want to make a comment or two, Wayne, sorry about putting you on the spot.
Yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot. I was coming to be entertained. But yeah, we were quite fortunate in that about a year and a half ago we were approached by one of the major banking groups in South Africa. And what they were looking for was a solution, and that they need all their branches scanned for the purpose of refurbishing. So what we do is we'd scan the branch, model it up, and create some intelligence behind information so that they can do their design based on that information, and then basically do the off-site shop fitting and then just drop it on site and make it fit, obviously, according to specs. So yeah, we've been, as I said, actively busy with that. It took probably about 6 months of development with the bank. Purely because they weren't sure what it was a new technology for them, and they weren't really sure what what to expect, and so we were just going through it with them. And end result being we've done way over 100 branches for them to date, and very happy with the technology. In fact, the specific bank that I'm referring to.
What kind of technology you mentioned?
Well, I'm referring specifically to 3D scanning. In this industry in South Africa, as the guys are referring to, it's very new. Every time you do a presentation, it sounds like a lot of smoke and mirrors to these guys. And so for someone like this particular bank group to adopt the technology, I think it is very reassuring, and they will be leaders. They're the leaders as it is in the banking sector, but I think other technology will follow. Other companies. We've obviously spoken to a couple of guys, even drop some names, but for example, KFC in Kentucky. They've got a situation where a lot of their assets aren't properly managed. So to go in and scan a branch or an outlet, and specifically, I'm going to ask Ashley just to jump in here and explain a little bit more about that. He's the technical guy. Just to explain a little bit about how we'll scan all of their fryers, and they'll know they've got X amount of fryers in this particular branch. I don't know if you want to jump in there.
We're using the laser scanners now with much higher density clouds than because now with the software allowing us to put it in, we're able to build more accurate families. And with that, we devise strategies to then do asset management for them. We know how much is in each branch or each outlet, whatever we decide. Once we've created the intelligence in the families, we can then pop them out, and they know better what the cost is of running to what's actually missing, which with F&B is quite an interesting one. KFC, that's going to be another interesting thing as well. It's, I think where we're going with it is definitely to extract more intelligence from the point clouds would definitely be a plus, as well as accuracy. For us, or for me, the limitations is the actual modeling programs aren't allowing us to meet the accuracies that we need. I mean, like we've seen this thing, most guys are working with straight walls with 90 degrees angles and that, and contractors don't build like that, especially not here. Quite a mess above the ceilings, the corners and that. So we have workarounds, but it would be nice to one day actually be able to extract accurate as built into an intelligent model, as opposed to what we're currently doing now is working with tolerances.
And what do you see as a challenge now to use the technology, people? Is it data acquisition is probably not anymore. You have the technology, but after that,
All the
processing
technology.
or modeling or
Technology can always improve. As set up for scanning, you need a couple of scans, so if it could process quicker, it's always a plus. Filtering is always, do you take too much, do you take too little? And then, software is definitely if you could get better intelligence from the point cloud, move into that direction, that's an open thing for me, where but you'd have to program it beforehand. So.
yeah. And what kind of intelligence would you like to have? Okay,
Well,
somebody comes to you and asks you, I
well,
can do everything for you, just tell me what you want to have.
Yeah, so like with our, like for furniture for instance, our intelligence there's cost, serial codes, and size, dimensions, where to order it from, who's responsible for it. If you could start pulling that more into, faster turnaround time as opposed to us sitting and modeling it, then you're opening up the world of things. I think the interesting part's going to be is processing the amount of data that the new scanners are bringing out. I mean, the next gen of scanners that are being released are going to be way more data intensive. So yes, with Recap and Bentley's point tools, we're able to do 1 billion, but what happens when we get to 100 billion? We're already doing excess of 500 scans for buildings, and that's still tiny to what's out there.
So do we have solutions for this? Somebody wants to comment on the Ben, you want to say something about the large amounts of data? Point clouds? No?
Well, I was mentioning this morning, that huge volume is a challenge, and we either need to improve the algorithms using more level of details maybe, or add more power behind it. I see that cloud could be a solution to add more power, because you can have as many processors as you want, just like this. It takes 36 40 computers.
Would it make sense to if we throw away all the points that are anyhow in the same plane and only keep the ones that are on the edge?
That brings you, and I think we started that conversation earlier. What do you archive? Do you archive raw process, data process? Where do you draw that line in the industry right now for archiving? One of the technology groups, one of the things our office called for is why can't we have infrared cameras as part of the scanners by pure signature to help segment it and therefore to create automated intelligence out of systems. And especially, again, going back to mining, if you can pick up by infrared cooling pipes that's cold, means it's ventilation pipe, therefore by signature we can bag and tag all the ventilation in one go. And that is the intelligence stuff, the next level that we need to see. Point clouds, believe it or not, it's not a sellable commodity. Business intelligence is, but business intelligence gets derived from point clouds. So therefore, initially you show point clouds and people go, wow, but once the aura has died down, we get back to reality. What is usable by the consumer out there? And this is the challenge. In each different aspect of where you're applying scanning, if it's forensics, or if it's movie industry, or if it's, in this case, retail, that is the heart of the matter in the indoor scenario and driving it. Yeah, and definitely the BIM scenario that Dave encountered is one of the big drivers.
So, the point clouds, and we are talking a lot about that.
Yeah, but
It's because it's three-dimensional, I guess, because when you go indoors, you have a lot of maps, but somehow nobody talks about floor plans. Everybody talks about, how we can scan, how we can make it even more alive. Why do you think? We don't consider that much the floor plans.
Surveying some indoor without scanning for a long time, just traversing if you like through sort of the easy, straightforward places, and then when there's an open door, you kind of poke in, survey a few corners, but you don't do a comprehensive model. And once you've printed that out, then you'll take measure. So now we've just kind of adapted the process a little bit. We start something with big scans, and then the whole process goes a bit faster. So it's not just point cloud and scanning. It sounds like you just say scanning all the time, but it's because it's impressive 3D element of it. But we actually use a combination of instrumentation and techniques. Obviously, on the end of the day, you've got your point cloud, and like you said, it looks impressive when you want to impress a new client or potential client, and you spin the point clouds around on your big, overpowered machine there. And then, but if you deliver that point cloud to the client, they're not happy, and then they first say, but you first ask them what resolution do you want, and then you guys will know it was the highest. And then you're like, are you sure? Like, and they're like, no, just give me the test. And then you're like, but you don't understand. And then we give it to them, and then they're like, no, okay, we need to cut it right down. Computer's caught on fire or something. So you have to, and then at the end of the day, we realize the guys don't really, there's a few people that do accept point cloud, but most of the people want a vector model or a BIM model or floor plans or 2D and then some sections through, or you've got to make it the data chewable for them and be able to digest it.
Yeah.
So
I'm asking this question because Alex is here, and actually he started doing quite a lot of collection of floor plans with the idea to produce 3D models with it. Alex, what would you say about it? Can we use the floor plans from the buildings, existing buildings? Can we forget about
I think we have a quite different level of detail there. Yeah, I mean, the evacuation plans are built for a purpose, and for that purpose they deliver their relevant information. But we see here so many different tasks which need richer or less rich data sets. So it depends really very much what information you need you have. But of course, I guess such initial information could be used to merge or to detect the main features of a building more easily. If you combine and fuse data you have from different sources, then you can throw away a lot of the points and still have a sensible model for some purposes.
And the floor plans you can obtain from the crowd. Actually, it's kind of crowdsourced.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think we've been driven. If you all just think back 15 years ago when TomTom came out with a 2D map view as you were driving, yeah, it was okay. But suddenly, them making their model 3D, that interpretation, that fraction of a second you need to know to change lanes to get onto off-ramp, has enhanced the experience of interpretation. And also, we in South Africa must not forget that we are very close to a third world country where people don't always have this higher level of understanding of this technology. And therefore, we have found that people grab onto 3D much easier. I think I said it to you. Surveyors and engineers, we take 20 years to speak a language that only us understand. You come into a boardroom and you're arguing a point why you want money for something, and there's a lawyer and an accountant across the table, and you show him a plan, and you think he will understand what you're saying. Come on, he doesn't understand that language. You take a 3D fly-through on the screen, and suddenly, oh, now I see why you want another $500,000 rand for your project. So we mustn't underestimate the power of 3D for interpretation by non-professionals, if I want to call it that. And Google has done us a massive favor in this regard. It's recently woken the world up for it.
I'm just taking quite a bit of recorded that. I'll put it. As a motto of our conference. Sure.
This is an open kind of question. Maybe anybody on the floor discuss. I think kind of not being at the leading edge sometimes can be a bit of an advantage because you don't have to go through that whole R&D phase. But my question would now be, if you had somebody who's starting from zero and they want to go into the business of 3D, whether it's implementation or GIS or whatever, what lessons or what pitfalls would you warn them against? Because I think that would be kind of, if you're trying to promote 3D in South Africa or trying to promote indoor navigation in South Africa and you want to get more people involved, what kind of pitfalls do you see somebody would have to avoid?
Sorry, George, I have a very warm comment I always make on this. For audiences, go and watch what games your kids are playing. They don't play the old 2D Atari games I grew up on. No. And often when I was, people wanting to get involved, I said, spend some time with your kids playing those 3D games they play. Then you might actually get it. The point is, the next generation is ready for this. We are underestimating the next generation.
No, but the next generation still has to.
Well,
they're being born now. I'm thinking about the guys who are actually ready right now to start doing business. And if I wanted to start a company tomorrow that was doing indoor navigation, but what kind of, from the audience side?
One of the challenges that we see is the user interface, the user experience. The next generation, as you said, they are used to gaming, and it's totally natural to them. When they will start using a professional system in their new career, if it's not as easy to use as when they're using gaming, they will not adopt it. Right? They will just say, that's crap, I want something else.
It's a very valid point, and it is more difficult to create a more simple piece of software.
Yeah.
That's
especially when the volume of data is bigger, and so that's why we have decided all new employees that we have in the company now are generation-wise Michael kids, because we want them to design the software the way that they want to use it, which we don't really understand when we are 30 years old and older. So So that's one kind. So that's why we're experimenting for the user interface with all kinds of new devices that could help making it easier, like hand scanner that you put in front of your screen, and when you digitizing in 3D is not that obvious because you start modeling and then you click on one point and then you have to go to the 3D control navigation command to move a little bit and then come back. So these devices would allow to take your object. That's my screen. You just take it and you click, and then it's a lot more fluid. So I think that's a challenge that we have to cope with. Provide better user interface that is really, really intuitive for that next generation.
Yeah.
The user interface is really important. I program myself, but I don't like programming for other people because they always find a way to break it. So I just program for myself. But it's like the next generation, or the generation now stepping into the market, they all have one of these things in their pockets. And I think the challenges, or at least they don't take note of sort of screen sizes and things, and they've tried to optimize user interface. It's very important. If we also, there were three times we got the slide where there's the old Nokia screen, and everybody mentioned that this was the first mapping program, and it worked like this, and take note that this is the old. And now compared to today's mapping, 2D mapping software, or navigation software, it's we've come a long way. So in 3D, I think it's going to be quite hard to represent 3D. Because Google Glasses, I spoke to you yesterday, said you had a pair, but the guys are complaining that the resolution is still very small. So I think we're going to be stuck with smartphone screens for 2 years at least, 2 years or whatever. So until we get heads-up display mounted to our heads or something like that. So we got to try and figure out the biggest challenges will be to display the optimum amount of information on a typical smartphone screen. But if you show too much, it's just going to be, when you imagine you're driving, there's just too much information to process at a glance while you're driving. Or walking in the mall and it's busy Christmas shopping, and if it's too detailed, you're going to bump into people. Because you have to spend time interpreting it. But if it's too basic, then somebody's going to be like, no, I can just try and post myself, this is too boring. So that's one challenge that needs to be addressed, and that's just going to take some experimenting. So it's something to have a look. And it's quite hard. To do perspective view, sort of augmented reality is a perfect tool, but that means people have to walk around now with the camera pointing in the direction that they're walking, and it's also distracting. They're going to bump into things. And then also other things to solve, like the health and safety things, where you want to use this type of technology. It's actually going to cause more health and safety problems than it's going to solve. If people are walking around on a construction site or in a plant with this
And if you expand this and think about, now let's say you have multiple people that have to approve a design or approve something, or do a session together, and there's a 3D model, maybe point cloud, maybe a vector, but they have to review and approve. Now you have some people that will be very savvy in using those tools and will immediately catch it. But there are others that not very used to 3D. They don't want to look stupid, and so you have to provide something that is very intuitive. You've probably seen or heard of the cave environment. Those expensive environments with screens that allow you to see. It's very immersive, but that's too expensive. So I think we have to come with technologies that give you that feeling, that that stereo viewing type of environment, but a lot more accessible in terms of cost. Like there are some glasses like Oculus Rift that provide you a 3D experience. So maybe sometimes all the people are in the same room, and maybe a big display. We can buy stereo TV for home. Why can't you?
That is back home where you are.
Sorry?
That's back home where you are. No, they are. I think one of the big points, and that's where going back to what George said, is how do you go back to to the third world environment. Don't look at South Africa as a first world environment. How do you bring this technology to our shores and get our professionals involved in it? And there's slightly different push and pulls towards taking up of technology. I think firstly we need to encourage, students are encouraged purely by the academia. If you follow a lot of people that go through their university degree, they mostly follow in the footsteps of their professors in the way that they think, in the way that they solve problems. And therefore, I think, coming back to you, George, and sorry, not throwing back in your face, but we are really reliant in South Africa and about our universities and our polytechnicons to actually provide these young professionals with a drive to want to take up this thing and the reason to go forward. And for me, that is a big issue. It is actually right now, I think there are some discussions where some of the Belgian people here were saying that standard is this technology drive in the training at universities. I don't really see that in such a drive now. It seems like we are 3 to 5 years behind in the way that we teach. And that is one of the big pushes for me is education. How do we educate our professionals to go one level up from where we are right now? Because there is a lag. I don't know, George, if you can comment on that, because you've studied, you've been overseas, you know the local situation, you've even been in Zimbabwe, which is even worse, but so yes, that perspective is a very interesting one for me, being in Africa.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent I agree. But I think part of the problem is you can teach somebody, on the data center, and you go out and use it. But for me, the more important thing is the professional societies start making demands on their members to have a certain, to be able to think in certain ways. I mean, like for example, most of our cadastral, I don't know about Europe, but the cadastral, whether there's a push for 3D or nothing.
Only Israel that's going 3D cadastral, but
sectional titles start it's kind of you measure a floor level and a ceiling level as well to define the space that can be owned. But it's such a small part of cadastre in this country. So the thinking is there. It is possible to define a scheme, but it's on a smaller scale. You can only define small scale schemes in the grand picture. But it's very similar if you think about outdoor navigation and indoor. And we keep talking about seamlessly going from one technology to another. It's very similar in survey journalism and cadastre. So it's two technologies, but you do have a transformation parameters between them.
what is the situation in the first world for professionals? You have to constantly study, because South Africa, that's now been introduced. It started with the medical industry, it's gone through the legal, and now in the survey, where you have to earn a certain amount of points to stay as a professional in practice. Is that the world over? Is that a common practice to force professionals to stay current?
Yeah, in Canada they have to, it's 3 weeks per year that they have to attend some training if they want to keep their license.
In Europe, same?
In Belgium, for example, each year a land survey has to earn 20 points. And he earns those points by going to seminars and meetings and everything.
And contributing back as well, doing a seminar. We also have a points system.
No, we got CPD points, and you actually earn double points if you actually train other people again. So it's
I think in Belgium that's the same.
Well, there's a whole system of points that encourages people to stay.
And then
It's a point system.
In Germany? No, we don't have license. No. Denmark has license. Okay.
Yep.
I got the note from Josh that we have to round the our discussion. So, would you like to say something? What is the most challenging topic for you
indoor, I was really surprised.
Let's go for indoor.
Okay, indoor, no, that's it. I see one of the biggest challenges, if let's say I come from a point of view of scanning, and it was pointed out that it remains a nice technology, to actually help fix my scanner in 3D space. And the technology that I heard of in the last 2 days might not get us within the centimeter, but it can get us into a close enough accuracy level so that by point-out to point-out registration, and guys, automated registrations are on its way. It's been refined. What is important in that aspect is clean, segmented data, but this issue about positioning scanners quickly, fastly, the time consuming, yes, the equipment is expensive, but you can start having a business model built if you can actually go faster and quicker by capturing data. Managing the data will remain a challenge. There is software out there, Includion, that can handle trillions of points. They're not talking millions, they're talking trillions of points. So that side, I think hardware and software will keep up, but the positioning, the navigation indoors is going to be, that positioning is going to be quick, like almost saying to replace the GPS we've got outdoors in the indoor environment. If we can crack that nut, scanning is not going to be an issue by either stop and go or mobilizing the scanner. That is really for me the push of technology of indoor to capture this environment. Something that, sorry, there's just one thing I haven't heard a lot of, and that is the SLAM methodology. I didn't hear a lot of it in the last 2-3 days.
Yeah, you messes up.
And I was with a company called 3D Laser Mapping that was basically one of the guys that was looking into the Zebedee systems. I know all about it, but SLAM came out of the robotics industry, mostly driven, and then you try to do Kalman filtering on top of it to get it more accurate. So yeah, that is, I would like to see SLAM pushed to the point that we can get very good accuracy out of it. But again, not all on its own. We saw some great presentations on IMU, real encoders, bringing all that together to actually speed up the capture process. It's not going to be a single push. It's going to be collective by everybody in this room with their bit adding to create the super capturing methodology, and then refining it and making it useful to the public. That's it.
Yeah, I think having come from quite a long time working abroad and then coming to South Africa and seeing the difference mainly in the construction environment where things were very, very 3D. I think the push, well, the whole indoor 3D thing is going to come not just through looking at indoor 3D, but it's going to come through the whole cycle. It's going to start from, the design cycle through the construction cycle, through the as-built, the survey cycle, and all those industries coming together. It's going to that's where it's going to. It's not going to. Yeah, it's going to be a whole collective where one passes through into the other, just to become a more totally efficient process. I think that's what the thing that's going to come.
There's two challenges that I have faces. The one is obviously you mentioned is positioning indoors, but not just getting a reliable, efficient, low cost or system indoors, but to have it working in real time so that you can navigate. And if you survey or if you want to capture, recapture data on hospitals, so you always have to bring your control in from the outside and try to close again outside. So it'd be nice to just, like a GPS system, set up your baseline inside. Something like that, so you don't have to come from the outside. And then the other challenge is what he was mentioning. When you model it doesn't have to be pointed out. I do modeling also from line work, from your survey, doing survey data, where a wall of a whole building is, it's not parallel. It goes from thick to thin, and it's a standard wall of size and so. But if you use a a standard modeling package with a library in the back of certain types of walls, that wall wants to be parallel and of a certain thickness. So if they plastered on 5 extra centimeters of water on it, then that's fine, because you now know where that wall is, but and it's okay and it looks pretty when you look at it, but now they design expensive aluminium frames with windows and it's all sandblasted with the company's logo and they want to come install this, and it doesn't fit. And now they have to start hammering away at the wall to make it fit. And so to get, like he said, get the modeling packages to start not think that the world is perfect and all lines are parallel and all perpendicular to each other. We do live in a world where stuff is skew and bent, and especially in point clouds, when you take a cross section through a point cloud, you will see the nonsense that the construction teams get up to when they build the building. So we need modeling packages. At the moment, we can either go for an accurate geometric model with very little intelligence, but they can tie in and they can manufacture things off-site, bring it in, fits. Or you go for what that's resource intensive. So you can't do high volumes. And then you have the other option where you can do high volumes, but it's low accuracy. And then, so you need to bridge that gap so that you can have something more of a compromise between the two worlds. That's the challenge, isn't it?
And you want to add something?
Yeah.